Hello everybody, Dr.A, Q&A with Dr.A again. This is Brent Agin. I'm a medical doctor in Clearwater. Here to have a good discussion about one of my favorite topics, which is lifestyle. And we're going to talk about the Carb Rev program, which is just an eating strategy, really a lifestyle program. But I want to focus specifically on why this eating strategy is so important and that, this program is so important. So not as much on the actual diet, but more on the reasons why I really love this program, both for myself and for what the responses have been for the clients that I work with. And so when we're talking about the Carb Rev, I'm just going to speak specifically on the components of the Carb Rev, but I also want to talk about NAD, which is nicotinic adenine dinucleotide, and BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotropic factor. This is really the nucleus of why we put this program together, because these are two very, very important compounds in our body that drive our mental and physical wellness. And when I say important, I mean they're essential. And so, the components of the Carb Revolution program make it possible to not only build and restore your NAD and your BDNF, but also keep it from declining, which is just equally as important. And so let's start by just first talking about the Carb Rev program, and then I'll get right into those two important molecules so you can see why I think this program is so really dear to us as a practice here and and to our telewellness community. So Carb Revolution is really, we call it the Carb Revolution because what happens notoriously in dieting is that people will remove one of their macronutrients, or two of them sometimes. So you'll probably hear me say this time and time again, is that you can't sacrifice health to lose weight. And so we want to have you guys getting kind of this understanding that you can achieve weight loss in a healthy manner. And it's not the most important thing for when you're trying to choose a eating strategy or how you would approach dieting. It's part of it, but there's also the component of it that's important, such as lean muscle mass, your sleep, your mood, your bowels, in your energy level. So it's just not achieving weight loss, which would be considered a crash diet, where people will potentially sacrifice a little bit of their health just to lose weight, and it's a pretty common act by a lot of people. And so that's why we called it the Carb Revolution, because we want people to stand up and not start reducing certain food groups or food categories or nutrient categories just because they're trying to lose weight quickly. And so when you're talking about macronutrients, we're talking about carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And when people try to lose weight, especially women, they notoriously will drop out their carbohydrates and drop their calories down and usually don't get enough protein. And so what can happen is they can get a quick release of fat. A lot of it's water weight, so it's kind of deceiving in a sense. And then depending on how long they do that, they will start getting into that point where they're sacrificing their health. And so when you think about it, if you drop out a whole nutrient group, so if you drop out your carbs and you reduce your calories and you're not getting enough protein, you can see that that's not sustainable. We wouldn't have these nutrients if they weren't important. And if you look back to the food pyramid back in, I would say in the 70s, 80s, maybe even in the early 90s, carbohydrates dominated the food pyramid. It was almost 60% of your diet was carbohydrates, followed by protein and fat. And now you look at how people are eating, they're deathly afraid of carbohydrates. And most women will reduce their carb intake all the time, just trying to maintain their weight. And so, that is why we really hope to at least entertain the idea that you have to have carbs and you can manage them if you do it right. And so, the other parts of the Carb Revolution program really focus on the exercise and sleep. So your sleep, diet, and exercise, that is your lifestyle. and there's some other components, but that's pretty much what makes up lifestyle. And so the other part of it is exercise. So exercise is essential. If you really want a long-term success for weight management, you have to have exercise in the picture. It's not just being active. That means you actually have to get out and do something more than just being active, like such as just walking or being on your feet at your job. You got to go out, get your heart rate up, have that heart rate variability, do some resistance training. Your bones and your muscles need that, in your joints. And then, and so one of the philosophies of exercise that we also like is called high intensity interval training. You could also look at it as boot camps. Some mild CrossFit, but we don't want anyone getting hurt. CrossFit is really for young, healthy, strong people because some of the exercises can be pretty aggressive. But those two exercises, high intensity interval training, cycling, boot camps, the idea of that is to get your aerobic and anaerobic exercise at the same time. And the science shows that the amount of calories you burn and how it affects your brain-derived neurotropic factor and NAD levels is established. And so you also can achieve excellent exercise statistics without having to be in the gym for 1 to 2 hours. You usually can achieve this in somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes. You only need to do it about 3, maybe 4 days a week, depending on how aggressive you want to be. And so you have some rest days as well. And so that is important. And the last part is sleep. So sleep also is huge for our recovery. That's where our body replenishes hormones and neurotransmitters. That is where we rest our muscles and we rest our body so that we can obviously be successful the next day. And sleep, diet, and exercise are intertwined. And figuring out how to get that good sleep cycle and how to get that deep stages of sleep is very important. And there's a lot of ways you can track your sleep, but there are a lot of also ways just to improve your sleep. Even if you're not tracking it, you're going to know by just how you wake up in the morning. And so now let's get into what I really wanted to talk about, is because I will talk about Carb Rev all the time, and you'll hear me bring it up because it is kind of the nucleus that you kind of surround yourself with everything, and it's free. Once you kind of get yourself into a rhythm of sleep, diet, and exercise being very organized and very good for you on most occasions, you're not going to get 100%. Like last night, I slept terrible. No clue why, but it was horrible, and I usually sleep pretty good. That's one of those things that I track my sleep, and sometimes I wake up and just I just get up and go to work because for some reason my body just wants to get up. That's not what I want all the time, but it's just an example. Is you can't have it perfect every time. It doesn't mean you have to run out and start looking for different supplements or different ways to improve your sleep. That's just the way of life. And so it's just something to think about, though, is that you're not going to get everything perfect all the time. You're going to have weeks where you might only get 2 workouts and not 3. This is a lifestyle, and even if and this is kind of what we talk about when people say life's about moderation. So as long as you're getting most of the time this regimen in place, you're going to be just fine. So real quick, I'm going to talk to you about NAD and brain-derived neurotropic factor. So these two, one's a protein, one's a molecule, are very essential for our bodies, and they really is kind of a self-fulfilling event when you have your lifestyle in place to increase both of these, because that is what's going to also give you more energy, make your brain healthier, keep you healthy, prevent disease, and then that is what's going to be able to power you to keep this lifestyle in place. And so when we have a good lifestyle, that means being happy, having energy, and feeling good both mentally and physically. So you can kind of see that is that when people aren't feeling good and they don't have a good lifestyle in place, they're trying to get to that point where they do feel good and they do have a regimen. And the reason people feel good is because of NAD and brain-derived neurotropic factor. And so let's start with NAD. You might have heard me talk about this in a previous Q&A, but NAD is a derivative of niacin or vitamin B3. It's called nicotinic adenine dinucleotide, and it's a compound that's essential for life. I mean, it's what you can think of it at the most basic level as the little powerhouse in your cells called mitochondria. This is a byproduct of your mitochondrial function. And so what NAD does is it has 3 or 4 main functions, and one of them is helping your body convert the food it eats into energy. The second is repairing DNA. The third is turning off gene expression, which means if you have family history of certain diseases, you don't always have to express certain genetic traits, and NAD is what helps keep those from expressing themselves. And then the fourth is immune response. And so you can see these are pretty valuable components. I mean, so all of our body's energy production is created through NAD, donating electrons and accepting electrons through its other form, NADH. And so sometimes our bodies do not have, either genetically or, as we age, we start having declines in our NAD levels, just like brain-derived neurotropic factor, just like everything in our bodies. As we age, these levels decline, depending on certain variables or certain exposures. You might find that hormones and proteins and molecules in your body decline faster, which then sets you up for having disease or, at least energy crisis, depression, bowel irregularity. So, you can kind of start looking. If you have a lot of just a lot of chronic symptoms, or you just feel like you're always sick, or just no energy, you're always depressed, it just seems like every year you get added another medicine, or then you have to look at why, and this is going to be a big part of it. So the things that cause NAD levels to decline are being sedentary, lack of deep stages of sleep, poor diet structure, bowel irregularities where you're getting absorption issues, and then genetics. And so if we know we're losing NAD as we age, we obviously want to figure out ways that we can reverse that and improve our NAD levels, either exogenously through supplements or by changing our food that we eat so that we can convert and make more NAD, or doing the certain lifestyle measures to increase NAD. And so, again, when you think about NAD, it is the powerhouse of our cells. So every bit of energy that we have, we want to use. We have to use that for our autonomic function in our body, but we also use that for everything. I mean, that's what powers our body to create neurotransmitters for our brain, to help out with our gut motility. And so, as I said, immune function and DNA repair. So we should really take this seriously when we're trying to think about what we're going to do, especially when it comes to eating, or to not diet wrong, so that we could potentially even cause more deficiencies of NAD and actually worsen your problem. So you'll lose weight, but yet you're becoming more unhealthy. So that is one of the main reasons that we like this program, because it has sleep, diet, and exercise as components of it. But most importantly, just the eating structure alone supports increasing NAD levels. And so that is the first important reason. The second one we're going to talk about is brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is a protein in our brains that cause what you probably have heard, neuroplasticity or neurogenesis. Neuroplasticity is just the term that says that our brains can improve, repair, and maximize neurotransmission of neurotransmitters. So just kind of our whole neuronal map in our brain can be improved by that protein. So the more brain-derived neurotropic factor you have, the better you can regenerate and maximize the potential of neurotransmitters going across the nerve endings. And so that, as we age, again, brain-derived neurotropic factor levels decrease. There are genetic predispositions for people to have lower levels of brain-derived neurotropic factor. And just remember what I've said this in the past, that we have no cures for any disease of the brain. So it doesn't matter if you have a neurodegenerative disease like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or ALS, MS, these still have no cures. There's medicines out there for them, but no cures. And so even when you look at mental illness, which is obviously on the rise, no cures. We have lists and lists of medications. Most of them do the same thing. Sometimes people get a little bit of benefits, then it starts to dissipate, and then they put you on another one or add another one. That's because the success rate of these medicines, again, aren't curing your disease. They're just Band-Aids. And so, you're going to kind of find yourself going through life just being not a guinea pig, but just really never finding yourself hitting that point where you really say, wow, I'm really happy now. And that's because if you don't have good levels of brain-derived neurotropic factor, you're not going to have your brain function the way it should be. And so so now all neurodegenerative diseases and all mental illness all have lower levels of brain-derived neurotropic factor. So again, matching NAD, the Carb Revolution program focuses on intermittent fasting, maximizing or managing your macronutrients, your carb, protein, and fat, and potentiating sleep through the supplements that are involved in the kits. And I'll talk about it right at the end. And so when we look at our current health of our society, you can see that mental illness is one of the fastest growing epidemics. You're not going to hear people talk about it, but right now, more than ever, we have a higher amount of mental illness than we've ever had in the history of the United States, probably the world too. But the suicide rate is also higher than it's ever been in all categories of age. And so, it's just been a very trying couple of years. And so I think this is a time for people to really try to take their health into their own hands, understanding that there's no cures, understanding what protein can actually help you get out of some of these symptoms or diseases, or just prevent getting these diseases or symptoms. And that is by doing whatever you can to increase your brain-derived neurotropic factor. So intermittent fasting, high-intensity interval training, deep stages of sleep. Those things all improve brain-derived neurotropic factor. So just kind of think about that. That is why everybody says that lifestyle is medicine. And it is. It's the best and most powerful medicine and disease prevention tool you can use. And it's just, and the great thing is that once you get it down, maintenance is really easy. So you can start, you can kind of step back and look and say, okay, if you've done dieting in the past and you haven't succeeded, and a lot of times people try multiple diets and lose some weight, gain it back. Some people will also just be on a diet continuously. Usually, again, that's reducing their carbs, reducing their calories, not getting enough protein in, and expecting to be healthy. And so if you kind of just step back and look and say, okay, I'm going to change my eating style this time, not just for losing weight, but actually to improve health and improve health both mentally and physically, you might find yourself being a little bit more successful because you're doing it now for immediate time, but also for preventing disease and treating diseases that you might have. That is the power of food, and that is the power of sleep, and that is the power of exercise. And so if you can think of it that way, it becomes really nice that you're doing this to feel the best you can, and you're just going to take weight loss with it, because it will come. And most people that have weight that they want to lose, or they have an energy crisis, or they have symptoms, it took a while to get to those symptoms, and those symptoms are usually caused by the problems with the lifestyle. So I'm trying to explain that a little bit. So when you develop disease, whether it's mental or physical disease, it's usually caused by not having a lifestyle in place that is conducive to preventing that disease. And so we're not taught that. Your doctors aren't going to tell you that. You're not going to learn that anywhere. But if you put it in place, you're going to see just how powerful it is. And so that is the most important thing to think, is that traditional medicine is really focused on treating you when you're sick. And they don't have a whole lot of solutions for you other than here's a medicine when you're sick, and then call me if you need me. So that's why I love being in functional medicine, is because we have tools to prevent disease and age healthy. And so you're also going to hear me talk about a term called biohacking. That is kind of the new term for age management, and I love it because people kind of think of it a little bit more scientifically. They actually feel like they're doing something or dissecting themselves to figure out what is the best thing for them. You can look at it how people do work on cars. People that work on cars and they want to make the car faster or run better or sound better, they're doing tune-ups and changing things out and getting better engines and oil changes. And I mean, that's kind of what you're doing with your body, and that's kind of the idea of biohacking, is trying to figure out how you can manipulate your internal environment and the environment around you externally to maximize your vitality or your potential. And so that is really what we kind of center the whole Carb Rev on, is biohacking. This is a biohacking starting point, because the supplements and all the other therapies that you can do, from growth hormone to nutrient infusions to peptide therapies, vitamins that you can take, whether orally or injectable, all those are really supporting your core, which is going to be your sleep, diet, and exercise. So this is really a huge starting point for people that want to get into biohacking, which is figuring out how to make you run the best you can. And that's gonna, that trickles down into every area of health. We get so many people coming into the office that are trying to improve their sexual health. They want to get their libido back. They want to have better production in the bedroom. Well, guess what? That's all part of this. This is all part of the whole wellness. The whole wellness cycle is you get the benefits out of the work you put in, but we try. The other part of biohacking is seeing what is the most effective way to get results, so you don't have to waste time trying to get to the same results when you could take shortcuts. And so that is the whole art. That is why everybody is jumping into this, is because they're trying to learn from other people, so they don't have to they can mimic what's successful, so they don't have to sit there and spend a bunch of time trying to figure out what is the best route for them. So there's a lot of different people, but you will read, if you start looking into biohacking, most people that are biohacking are doing intermittent fasting. Most people that are biohacking are doing high intensity interval training, and I guarantee everybody that is biohacking is looking at their deep stages of sleep. So this is not a big secret, but yet so many people in the United States fail to look at how important this is for your overall life. And so just going to kind of go through this again. Two molecules. One's protein in the brain-derived neurotropic factor. The other is NAD, nicotinic adenine dinucleotide, which is a molecule that we produce from our food, but we also get it through some processes in our body by breaking down food, and then the rest of it we have to get through lifestyle activities. And both of them decline with age, just like our hormones. And so aging is really caused by loss of hormones and loss of molecules that power our body as we age. And the more exposures you have and the rougher you are on your life, the faster these can decline. So the Carb Rev is kind of set up to improve both of these molecules. And by doing so, you have to get yourself to the point where you're in a lifestyle. That means this is second nature. Your fasting is good, your exercise is regulated throughout the week, and you are getting good sleep most of the time. And that's it, most of the time. And so our Carb Rev kits also include certain supplements that I've put together with help of my team. But we have one that's for the brain. It's a nootropic. I feel it's probably one of the better nootropics out there. Of course, I'm biased because I made it, but we did try it for 2 years, and it is exceptional for helping out with mood, focus, and energy. We also have a protein shake. It's a whey isolate. It's very good because it's got 24 grams of protein with only 110 calories. And again, it's a whey isolate, and it's got chia seed. It's fortified with vitamins, and it blends really well with water or almond milk. We have a morning shot, which is a natural energy shot, kind of like a 5-hour energy, but better because we have 15 power herbs in it, so it tastes a little herby, but it has it only has about 70 milligrams of caffeine, so you're really getting powered by the actual nutrients, not just synthetic caffeine. And then we have a nighttime formula for sleep that is also good for bowel regulation, and then we have a super burn product which has beta hydroxybutyrate, bitter orange, and phenylethylamine. So it's kind of a well-rounded program for those people starting to get out and try to get this lifestyle in place, because it covers sleep, it covers energy, it has a supporting exercise supplement, and it has your protein in it. So this is a great kit for people to get into that 3 to 6 months where they have all the supplements and they have the tools to get into that point where you're nice and regulated. And that's why I like the kit. Now, once you have this down, of course, there's plenty of products and supplements that can support a lifestyle if you're trying to be more aggressive. Some of the supplements I think are really not a supplement to a diet anymore. They're really a requirement, like magnesium, B vitamins, vitamin D3, omega fish oils. But it is a nice way to get yourself into a regimen. And then once you're in it, it is so easy to maintain. 100% of people that get to that point where the body has just really made that metabolic switch, they're burning fat, and they feel good. They're into the intermittent fasting. They got their lifestyle in place. They sit and look and say, "Wow, this is so easy." And guess what? Their weight just keeps going down to where it should be. Our bodies, if you're feeding it right and you have the right mix in place, you will naturally go down to the body fat, muscle to body fat ratio that you're supposed to be. So I often get people that will come in and start seeing me, and we get them started and they tell me, oh yeah, I want to drop from 250 down to 210. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, well, you got to go a little bit lower than that if you're really trying to, just let your body do what it's going to do. And sure enough, they go down from 250 to 230 to 220 to 200. Next thing you know, they're at 195, a weight that they were in college, but they feel amazing. They feel amazing. They just did not have the confidence that they could get to that point. But again, if you're doing everything right in time, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Your body will get to the spot where it wants to be. And if you're not getting results, that's when you got to go see someone, because then it could be hormones. But a lot of times when you're doing this and you have this in place, like I said, this is medicine. So a lot of times hormones will start regulating because you're getting better sleep, you're doing the exercise, your bowels are getting more regular because you're eating better. And next thing you know, hormones are improving as well. So, I mean, it is possible to do that. But if you're just not getting the results that you expect, you're not feeling what you think you should be, that is when you just, go find a good hormone doctor, functional medicine doctor to run your labs and see if there's anything that you can do from a hormone perspective. But if you have all these other parts in place, it makes it very easy, because if you know that your sleep's good, your diet's good, your exercise is good, you're taking the supplements you're supposed to take, then it has to be hormones. And that's what makes it very easy for you. Even if you start to, you're doing really well, and then you just start not to feel as good as you were, you can always look back and say, well, what did I change? Did I change my sleep? Did I stop exercising? Have I changed my fasting window? Did I quit exercising? Am I not exercising as aggressively? And you can self-correct. So just think about that. This is a lifestyle. This is something that it's a way of life. It's something that you can use continuously. And when you get into that point where you're in, maintenance is easy, and you'll find that your body is not going to change. So remember, you're not just doing Carb Rev just to lose weight. You're doing it to be healthy, and that's mental and physical health. That should be the goal for yourselves, is just to feel the best you can. And you might feel amazing even when your weight isn't where you want it to be, but that will come. That's just how it works. And so that's why, so many people diet and gain all their weight back, or, there's so many people that have tried all sorts of diets. That's because this has to become a behavioral, a response, a lifestyle. So thank you guys again. This is Q&A with Dr.A. We talked about NAD and brain-derived neurotropic factor and how that relates to the Carb Rev program. And it's really just using an intermittent fasting base with high-intensity interval training, along with carb cycling, and obviously getting good sleep. So look forward to talking to you guys next week, and you guys have a great rest of your week.